Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at AIPD, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Police Department, coming up on the Xbox One starting on the 29th of January 2016 for what I believe will be $15. If you're watching this video in the first 24 hours or so from when it was uploaded, there is a giveaway active for a copy of this game. Feel free to check out the YouTube description or my Twitter feed. So AIPD is a top-down twin-stick shooter similar to some other games you might have played, most notably probably Geometry Wars. In this game there are obviously various differences, and one of those differences is you actually get to choose your ship and what upgrades come on your ship. I'll kind of explain the ship, the possible upgrades, how they manage in the game and whatnot, and what happens as you progress from level to level. So to be able to actually properly explain all the upgrades, I think it's better if I explain the gameplay first. On screen you see my ship. To the left of my ship there's a health bar in green. Depending on the difficulty you're on, enemy hits will do different amounts of damage. On easy, an enemy hit will do about half a bar. On normal, it'll do about 1 bar. On hard, I think it does 1.5, and on blazing, it either does 2 or 3 full bars, which makes those difficulties incredibly hard. On the right hand side of my screen there is a overheat bar, which is basically how hot my gun is. If I keep firing my gun over and over and over again, my gun gets too hot and then it overheats, and there's a little bit of a time delay until you can start using it again. So you generally don't want your gun to overheat. And there's also, for any fully automatic weapon like the gun I'm using right now, I can hold down my gun and it'll fire at a normal pace, or I can actually press each time individually and it'll fire faster, but it'll overheat much faster as well. There are also pickups on the map. As you can see, I have a small icon above me, and you can also get a small icon below you. The icons above you are basically modifiers that slightly change the gameplay for a short amount of time. These are things like cooldown, which infinitely allows you to shoot your gun without overheating, or time dilation, which allows you to slow down time and accurately pick out enemies without having to worry about getting hit as easily. And there's also a pickup for the bottom of your character, and those are basically super weapons. And those are things like missiles, bombs, and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's like a shotgun blast. And on the harder difficulties and in the later levels, it actually does become very much so a balance of how you use your power-ups and your super weapons accurately, and very well. So right here you see me using time dilation. This is one of the earlier waves, so the enemies aren't that difficult. I'm playing on an easier difficulty, so I'm not taking much damage from these enemies. But you can see that I'm trying to use them in order to kind of get me out of tight situations. Right there was a bomb that can really destroy a whole lot of enemies all at once. Achievement wise, the game's pretty easy actually. You're just gonna have to play a whole bunch, and there's one little skill intensive achievement, which is for beating the game on hard, which isn't that bad, but you kind of have to get lucky because at the end of every round you have one of these screens. At the end of every round you have to select a challenge, and it won't let you do the next wave until you select a challenge, but every challenge will follow you through the rest of your progress. So there's 15 waves in standard mode. You're trying to get all the way to the end of wave 15, which is a boss battle. All the waves are similar to the waves you've been seeing, they just get increasingly harder because of more enemies, newer enemy types, and then like I said, that final level is a boss battle. But after every single round, like I said, you have to select a challenge, and these challenges are basically random, so every time you play it, like wave 10 for example, will always be different no matter how many times you play, because you're always going to have a different set of challenges you're going to select, and they're always going to change the game in different ways. So for example, here I can do super weapon, teleporters drop mines, mine carpets, or drones fly faster, and that depends what I want to do. I can either have all the little enemies fly faster, which is more dangerous to me, or I can have my super transporters, which are those caterpillar looking guys. They actually carry in the super weapons that I was talking about earlier, and they will drop mines. So it becomes a little bit of a harder battle, and you're struggling to get your super weapons more because you're also dodging mines from the guys who bring you your super weapons. You'll see that there's a kind of a lot bigger of a sample of different enemy types on my screen as well. There's the little dudes, there's like these missile dudes who try to zoom in on you. There's a few purple enemies which are a little bit harder. Some of them try to tether you, some of them will try to shoot you from a distance, some of them will lock onto you with a laser and then fire that laser. There's challenges that make it harder depending on each enemy type. This one is that's kind of the worst set of challenges you could possibly get in terms of getting a high score. One of them makes the game incredibly hard, while the other one makes you constantly lose your multiplier, which kind of sucks if you're trying to go for a high score. At the end of this video, you'll actually see me unlock an achievement for unlocking all of the weapons, which is a score-based thing and not a skill-based thing. Like I said, for the most part, you'll be spending most of your time just getting a lot of points to get the achievements. Achievement-wise, it is a decently easy list. Like, difficulty-wise, probably a 5 out of 10, maybe, or a 4 out of 10, depending on how good you are at top-down twin-stick shooters. But time-wise, we're looking at about 5 to 8 hours if you know what you're doing when boosting the last achievement. And that's about it. Like, I don't really have much more to say about this game. I think the gameplay kind of speaks for itself. I think I explained all of the dynamics pretty well. There are a whole bunch of different modes and leaderboards that I haven't obviously shown on screen yet, but there are leaderboards for every single mode, and then there is a custom mode where you can select certain modifiers on certain difficulties in order to try to get the highest possible score, which is how you're going to end up boosting a lot of your score once you get to the very end of the game and realize you're probably 50% short of what they want you to get. You turn on all the modifiers, play on a ridiculously high difficulty, and you really stack up points really easily, even though the game becomes incredibly hard and you die within a matter of minutes. Once you have all of the challenges turned on, the game becomes incredibly difficult. For example, all of the enemies will be faster, they'll lock on better, some of the enemies will tether you from further, the edges of the level will become deadly to you. There's bombs flying across the screen in multiple directions all at the same time. Your gun overheats. Like, every time your gun overheats, it causes a bomb to happen, and then the bombs have to be defused. And there's a lot of kind of cool, complex game dynamics that are added through those challenges, which, like I said, you can turn on manually outside of the standard mode. This isn't a review, but I thought I would kind of touch on my opinions on the game. It's a fun game, don't get me wrong. If you love twin-stick shooters, which a lot of you do and we're very passionate about, you'll probably like this game. It's more of the same, but a little bit different. At the same time, I don't know if it necessarily has the most replayability out of any game I've ever played, and it seems to get just a little bit boring, even with all the cool kind of dimensional game mechanic stuff I mentioned earlier. At the end of the day, it is a twin-stick shooter. There is a limited quantity of enemy types, and if you're playing a lot of standard mode, the waves kind of start feeling a little familiar and similar to previous waves. So there's that. But at the price point it's at, especially if it ever goes on sale in the future, which I know a lot of you come back to these videos when these games go on sale, it does potentially have some fun there, especially for twin-stick shooter lovers. So thanks guys so much for watching. Special thanks goes to Hair and Giggles, as well as all of these awesome people on Patreon for following the channel. Feel free to check me out on Twitter, and hopefully I'll see you next time, guys. Peace!